Kieran Tierney and Alistair Johnson are the best fullback pairing I've ever seen at Celtic.
Strongly disagree. If you're playing with Champions League qualification, you're playing with dropping points, you're playing with not having the best prepared squad for going to places like Ibrox, where we've not beaten Rangers for ages now.
I just want to ask you a question here, because you're doing an awful lot of moaning.
Your solution to us signing Jamie Vardy as a striker is needing another striker.
Oh my God! The Champions League is approaching and we've still not signed the players we need. Will Brendan play his wild card? That's this week on 20 Minute Tims. I'm joined by Melly and Stephen.
Very YouTubey, Jamie. Well
Thanks
done.
very much. You guys, last week we ended the podcast by predicting, will Celtic sign any footballers by the time we sat here in this chair? We are 1 week on and the answer's no.
Yeah,
Don't you look a fool, Melly?
I do.
Muggy little podcast gets it wrong again.
That one last smidgen of faith we have in the Celtic board failed us once again, and it's our own fault. We should never have done it.
You've got to hand it to them, Stephen.
Yep.
They let us down at every opportunity, the board, big and in small ways.
Yeah, we've had our fingers burned once again when it comes to trusting the Celtic board. It's very, very, very disappointing. We do the whole thing. We do it every year. So there's plenty of time left in the window. There's 4 weeks left of the window. There's 2 weeks left of the window. There's 6 hours left of the window. There's still the transfer marked free agents list. Let's all go run to that.
So how many weeks have we got left?
It's 2 as it stands.
2 full weeks.
Yeah, so it's the 1st of September.
So you can count on one hand how many weeks of this transfer window left.
Yeah,
but we sat here a couple of weeks ago and I remember you saying, well, the deadline really is the Champions League, isn't it? Getting players in for the Champions League. And here we are on a couple of weeks from that. No players have come in for the Champions League, so we are going in with what we've got, which is not good.
We did scout FC KAIRAT. You can get that on patreon.com/20minutetims, along with any other players that we sign. We'll scout them in pre and post-match podcasts and writing and videos and lots of good stuff. The link is in the bio. And from listening to the podcast that you did, Melly, with Alex from The Athletic, to scout the team, I've got to admit, I thought the players we've got now should be able to see that tie away.
Yeah.
So is it really crucial to get the players in before this tie? Or is Brendan obviously wants them? He said that. We'll get to Brendan's comments, but we should be able to see this tie away without any new players in, surely.
You'd like to think so, but we've seen in these qualifiers that they can be difficult.
In fact, I'm going to correct myself because I want to stay true to the record here. When I said we can see these ties without any new players in, is a lie. Surely we can navigate this tie with Tierney and Nygren, those 2 new players in.
Yeah, we probably can, but again, why does it need to be this way? Because we went into games last season with a better squad. We had options out wide. Now, if we want to change certain players or we need to take certain players off, we'd have to change players about, like you were talking about, Stephen, last week. So why does it need to be this way? We've got the money in for Kuhn. We knew he was going for ages, blah, blah, blah. We keep going over it. But this is a big game for Celtic, because if this goes wrong, it will turn instantly. And there's a big game straight after that, and the Rangers game as well. It could all get very, very messy if Celtic go out to a team they are likely they should beat. Why would they not do it? Why would they not be able to beat them? Because we don't have the options there.
It's this thing about the Celtic board, Stephen, being like risk averse. And you pointed out just before we sat down to record, well, actually, this is not risk averse. This is quite a risky strategy.
Yeah, it's literally risky to pass up the opportunity to give yourself the best chance of qualifying. No, I take your point, and I do agree, because I'm not going to sit here and cook up any kind of faux drama or like jeopardy. I fully expect Celtic to beat this team quite easily right now. That's not set in stone. The reason we all follow football, the reason we watch football, is because it's not set. These results are not set in stone. There is a chance that Celtic could fail in this, and we have to believe that, or else we wouldn't bother qualifying or even entering the Champions League in the first place, because we need to believe that we can beat the bigger teams. Yeah. So that's kind of how it works. So I do leave aside that there is the chance that Celtic could fail in this call. I don't expect it to happen, but at the same time, it's not so much about that. Can we just about be quite confident that you can beat FC KAIRAT over 2 legs? Yes, I'm very confident of that, but it's still quite deflating to not give yourself the best available opportunity, to the best opportunity that you can afford, in the name of all this sort of, but the best deals come much later. We're simply waiting for the best deals to fall into our lap at the end of the transfer window. So I do take the point that it's not an absolute necessity to spend tens and tens of millions of pounds to beat the Kazakhstan champions, right? I totally accept that. But it's just that it's so tedious going through these windows. And Brendan Rodgers is what we're doing here. What we're doing is going into this tie with a weakened squad, right? So there's no debate over that because Brendan Rodgers is telling us that every single interview. Sometimes he's getting fed up with having to say that in interviews, right? He's getting quite snarky about it these days. Understandably so, because
completely.
He's getting asked about it sometimes twice a day.
Do you think Brendan just sits and wishes he could say, "You know, when he's out there with a flag above his head, can you just stop asking me?"
The thing is, just to branch off into that, I do get why the media have to do this, and I really sympathise with Brendan Rodgers. We spoke about this last week. Why he is the only person from the club speaking, I've genuinely no idea. I'm not saying the club should be out there saying, we are going to sign X player, Y player. That's not how it works either, but to highlight some sort of strategy would be handy.
Do you think
Other clubs do it.
Do you think the guy whose turn it is to ask any update on transfers, Brendan, at every press conference, do you think he's like sweating, like shitting himself? Any update on transfers, Brendan? He's like, Christ. No.
Brendan himself admitted, look, I can't think of any other ways to say it. I'm not smart enough to come up with 20 different ways of saying the same thing. So it is very unfortunate that we're in this position. But to go back to the point, we're going into this game risking it to an extent. So that's the exact opposite of risk averse when it comes to the board. It seems to be their risk adverse when it comes to expenditure, but pretty pro risk when it comes to actually qualifying for the Champions League. But I don't know why that is. It's a quite strange balance to strike. But we're going into this game with not as strong a squad as we, the fans, or Brendan Rodgers, the manager, would have liked. And that is a problem. Is it going to see us go out of the competition? I doubt it. But it's still it's not very impressive a way to run, is it?
You're making me very nervous, Stephen. You're making it out as if this is a foregone conclusion. And while you might be right, when I look at Celtic right now, a striker hasn't scored a goal for Celtic this season. So for me, looking at the tie, yes, the first game's at home, but the second one's away from home. And that is a long trip. It's difficult. We've seen Celtic go into these games with 5-0 leads and still struggle towards
home game's massive now as a result of this weakening. Yeah.
So by that reckoning, I think Celtic would need at least a 3-goal head start to go through.
I think we've beat them 5-0.
We've no striker that scored. We don't know who's going to play in the right wing, and out the two...
You're up again, Jamesy boy.
Jamesie's up. Will he be able to last the full 90 minutes? And then Kieran Tierney's going to need to go off at some point. This firepower that we're expecting Celtic to go out and bash this team 4-5-0, you're relying on midfielders and fullbacks to get you there.
Come on, it's not going to last forever, though, is it? I mean, we've got Dyes in there, who's still a very, very good footballer. He's going to cause problems. I know what you're saying about Adam Reid and Johnny Kenny, but it's not like, personally, I think it's not like he's never going to score again. And maybe a game like this, it's. I'm going to stop myself because I've said it before about Adam Reid that he just needs one to go off his arse, and one literally went off his arse last season, and it didn't spark him into life. But I've got faith that Dyson can hurt teams like this. And as you've seen, Negrin looks pretty good, Rayo looks pretty good. If we need to get through these games, and we're going to get to the football in a second and the juicy transfer rumour, but if we need to get through these games, I think we've got the personnel to do it.
Engels pinging a corner directly from a corner, hopefully.
But my issue is, see Celtic starting lineup on Wednesday night, I'll probably go, that's fine. I expect Celtic to do that. That starting lineup will not be the lineup that finishes the game because, as I say, Tierney will probably need to go off. Ida rarely plays 90 minutes, and then you're bringing on Johnny Kenny probably to try and score you a goal. James Forrest, will he last 90 minutes, and then you're bringing on Yang. We could be 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go, and we're thinking we need another 2 goals
here. We could be 5-0 up with 20 minutes to go and bring all these guys on.
That rarely happens in these qualifying games, doesn't it?
When I say I want to clear up that up. I don't want to imply at all, which is why I said about how football sometimes works against you when it comes to favourites and foregone conclusions. I don't want to imply that I think Celtic are already through. I'm just acknowledging the fact that if Celtic weren't to go through, if Celtic weren't to beat this team quite heavily at home, it would be an absolute disgrace. So that would be a huge shock if Celtic win it. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. It would just be like...
Put me on the record. I'm not saying, well, am I that confident? I think that the transfer stuff aside, and I do take your point on, I can I'm not that worried about this game. Maybe I've got a false sense of security. I'm just not that worried about this game.
And I've enjoyed the last couple of Celtic games. Celtic are playing well. We'll talk about the football in a minute, as you said. But looking at this, right, this was a draw. So Celtic could have got 4 other teams.
Yeah.
One of them could have been Sturm Graz. One could have been Basel. It wasn't a guarantee we'd get the best draw here. And we've left ourselves short again.
That's a point.
It's needless, isn't it? Like you're saying with the risk. This was a very risky strategy. I never in my wildest bold dreams thought imagine Celtic would go into this not having brought in a single winger, despite the manager saying he needed 2 if somebody goes. Yet here we are again. Why every season are our expectations being lowered? Why every time
I get it.
do we
I get
think
it.
the board have done that? We'll learn from this. There is no learning here, and it's got to catch up with us at some point.
You're right. We are playing. But do you? I'm not going to get the mask. But if I said to you, if maybe Brendan's in these transfer meetings, what if Brendan said, "Look, I desperately, absolutely need a winger in for these Champions League games." I get the feeling they probably would have had to move their arse a wee bit and get one in. No.
How does that work? How does that manifest itself? Because
he asked for one at the end of the season before.
Yeah, you're right.
left.
I don't know what I was saying there.
There's
I've heard Brendan Rodgers ask for countless players and no get them. So I don't know. I was waffling.
Yeah, I understand the angle there, but I don't know what big red button would be hit if that was the case, because they are putting in bids for players. Would they stop putting in silly bids for players if that happened? Would they actually get serious and put in bids towards more what the player's worth? I don't know. I think there's a proven track record of waiting, not only waiting far, far too long, but also complete and utter failure. We've come out of several transfer windows over the last few years where we have desperately needed something and it's not been delivered. So I think we're once again in that scenario. Something is not going to turn up. I'd be amazed if we get all the business done. Just today, I saw a tweet from Paul from Celtic Fans TV. I hope he doesn't mind me citing this because it's from before, but he said that it was when we came out of a transfer window needing a striker, it wasn't delivered, and then he acknowledged the fact that everyone immediately gives the board yet more leeway and said, "Oh, well, the fact that we've not signed one now must mean we're doing something later. The real targets are yet to come. We're waiting for the best deals. Please spare me this Kvistgaard and stuff." I'm paraphrasing what Paul said. This was what he was driving at. This Kvistgaard and stuff, we're just going to go back in for him when the deal's right. This isn't waiting, it's failure. It's outright complete and utter failure when it comes to these transfer windows. And do you know when he tweeted that? January 2024. And we're in a
18 months.
18 months later, and we're still doing we're waiting for the best deal. So I'd love to be able to say that if the chips were down, the board would roll out the big potatoes and get the proper deals done. But there's just no track record there of them being able to do that. In fact, people can come up with the odd example here and there, but I'm just saying, just statistically with this board, it's just very unlikely that they're going to deliver.
I feel like these conversations, they're very circular, because no matter what you say, no matter what alternative viewpoint you put across, you just have to remind yourself about how the previous windows have gone, and they've all been pretty bad. And I've come to accept that the board, they do the business at the end. Brendan Rodgers said it. He said, funnily enough, notoriously we are a club that do our business at the end of the window. That, I don't know if Brendan Rodgers realises that or not, but that's the first time anyone's ever actually stated that's the case.
Yeah.
We've all speculated it, and we've all thought that it was. We didn't think it was on purpose or by design. We all thought it's just Celtic are so frantic, so bad, so disorganised that all the business happens at the end of the window. But Brendan Rodgers said last week, this is a club that notoriously do their business at the end of the window. So that's what we'll do. That's how we're approaching this. That is the design of it. But we've already discussed previous weeks that doesn't necessarily get you best value or success. But the board are obviously going to stick by it. So I'm not really.
And you're playing with, as Melly said, you're playing with Champions League qualification. You're playing with dropping points. You're playing with not having the best prepared squad for going to places like Ibrox, where we've not beaten Rangers for ages now in like a 90-minute game. That's where the risk comes in. So it's not risk aversion. That's the wrong way to look at it. They're risking plenty.
I said last week that Brendan Rodgers is acting as a human shield for the board in terms of these comments. And I can't remember if I made this point last week, but he's also acting as a human shield for the board in terms of results. I mean, the performances and results have been good recently.
Aye.
Despite the fact he's not got the players in. If he was a lesser manager, as we've seen before, now just stop me if I've already made this point on a podcast. we would be dropping points here, or we would be going out of Europe, and we might still. But so he's a human shield when it comes to answering questions for the press, and he's also a human shield when it comes to cobbling together a team and navigating us through these games that are coming up.
Yeah, no, we're very hopeful we can do that in the Champions League. But again, if it gets to this Champions League and we get through it, and then we go out and sign players, great, it's all worked out well. It's not a strategy, but because one time it won't, and see if this time it happens and we don't go through. What happens then? Do the board just go, right, we've not went through, so we don't need any more players because we're not in the Champions League, and you just need to go what you've got with what we've got? We're sitting here with 80 million in the bank, and we're not giving the manager the bare minimum. So do the targets change depending on if you get in the Champions League or not? Because if we go out the Champions League and Celtic turn around and buy 4 players, well, why? Why can't you do that?
I just don't really have much. I get what you're saying, but I just don't really have much. Like, why are we waiting? It could blow up. It might, but it might not.
Do you think the targets will be different whether we qualify for the Champions League or not?
No, I don't.
Why?
Because I think I was honest. I was trying to work this out in the Discord when we were having the chat. There must be some reason. Maybe Celtic think, look, we're a big club. We're a Champions League club. We're buying from smaller clubs. We've identified these players. We've spoke to agents. The players know we're interested. If we come in at the end of the window, the player's going to say, look, I want to go to Celtic. Because that's what players do now. And the club are saying we're holding it for 6 million. Maybe Celtic are hoping that the player goes, look, I don't care about your 6 million. They're not paying 6 million. They've offered you 4. I really want to go. And I think Celtic are trying to leverage that sort of deal. I don't know. I assume, I'm only surmising that that's their logic. I do get what you're saying. We are gambling on this Champions League thing, but these teams are of such low quality.
Yeah.
Can we honestly, or hand on heart, say if Brendan Rodgers loses this game, it's because we didn't bring him the players in? Hand on heart, can you say that?
Well, Nicholas Kuhn scored a lot of goals for Celtic. Kyogo scored a lot of goals for Celtic. To win these ties, you need to score goals, presumably. Or
it does help.
It could be very difficult.
I've always said that.
Yeah.
I've always said it's better to score goals than to not score goals.
And even then, if we
You can't
don't
just rely on own goals.
Exactly. And
Well.
if we don't score goals, what happens? It finishes 0-0 in both games, and we have penalties where we need to score goals.
Yeah.
And we were terrible at that towards the end of the season, weren't we, with the lack of quality we had in there. I just don't see why we do this to ourselves, because as we've spoken about in a podcast previously this summer, these qualifications are going to get more difficult for Celtic. There's going to be more rounds starting from next season onwards, I believe. So why are we making this harder and harder for ourselves when I don't think we have to?
You're right. You're right. And I think we're all sort of, we're all pissed off and a bit. We're all pissed off and a bit bored. But Stephen, you accused me of just accepting. What's after acceptance?
Oh,
Acceptance is the final one.
That's the final one, yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
think
there.
so.
Your final stop.
We were in bargaining last week because we were so
I'm in acceptance. I'm like, the players are alive when they arrive. I'm not that worried. And Melly he is right to point out that the strikers are misfiring and we need goals to get through these ties. He's bang on when he says that you need to score goals to win football matches. And we need.
That's why the people come
I
here.
know. we need a bit of help. Can I interest you in one Jamie Vardy?
Oh wow, yeah, what a rumour.
So, see, when you're saying about acceptance and bargaining, where would Jamie Vardy go in that for you?
That regardless of what happens, see if Jamie Vardy signs for Celtic, and it's been a rumour all along. It seems to have hotted up in the last sort of 24 hours or so. Let's face it, it's been a rumour since Brendan Rodgers came back to the club, because it's one of those easy. We were talking, we did an episode of our Breakfast of Champions Patreon property quite recently, and we were talking about how it's so quiet this window that we're not even getting the lazy links to like guys Brendan Rodgers has vaguely come across in the past. We're not even getting that, but this is one that's always existed because there's that easy link, that
The Brendan Rolodex.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems to have hotted up in the last sort of 24 hours because seasons are kicking off. Jamie Vardy still doesn't have a club. If this happens, right, regardless of what you think of Jamie Vardy or not, whether you like him as a player, whether you think he's good enough at 38 to score goals for Celtic, forget all that for now. If this happens, that is not the plan. There is no way that Celtic planned
signing a free agent in August.
We're just waiting for the best deals to happen, and up pops a free agent, 38-year-old Jamie Vardy.
We have seen it with the like of Casper and all that sort of stuff, haven't we?
Yeah, that's fine. Things just fall into your lap on occasion, but that just happened. Joe Hart was retiring. We need another guy. Brendan
Casper
Rodgers
came
knows
in
him.
for the American tour last year. So he was in
That's
a month ago, maybe.
Yeah, so Jamie Vardy appearing after seasons have already kicked off would, again, forget if you like the idea of him running in behind defences and spamming up the Huns and all that. Right, forget all that.
I do.
If you that's not the plan. Don't pull the other one. If that was the plan all along to get Jamie Vardy to replace Kyogo, who's been wanting away since when was that? Last summer. Last summer. Yeah, no, I'm not accepting that. So if that was to happen, I'm not saying I'm dead against it. I think that it's interesting. I mean, can't take that away from it. Signing Jamie Vardy would be very interesting, but you can't have it both ways. You can't do that and then pretend like this was a strategy from Celtic all along. Just absolutely no chance.
I'm so torn on the Jamie Vardy thing, if I'm honest, because forget all the. I know this is a bad thing for a podcast, I say, but I am so bored talking about the board. Like I just feel like they're just mad mystery men that sit behind a curtain and you don't know the first thing about them. But so forget for a second why he's here, and let's just think about the footballer. Forget for a second that he's 38. Forget for a second that he might be a bit slow. Forget for a second that his best days are behind him. Forget for a second.
He's right into acceptance.
Yeah. Forget for a second that we try to sign him when he was playing for Fleetwood, so coming up for 13 years ago, Neil Lennon tried to sign him and he went to Leicester. I mean, you could count on both hands how many things I want to forget about Jamie Vardy. You could point to one single thing with one single finger and it's the shithousery. I think there's not enough of that in football. I've been saying it for ages. We need a bit of that. We need a bit of shithousery back in the Celtic team. There needs to be...
He lives for it. He exists for that kind of thing. Yeah.
He's gunning cans of Red Bull at Steve Austin's taking Steve Weisers. He's on the pitch and he's noising folk up. I want that. And dare I say it, could he be a decent footballer? I was having this conversation with someone today and they were saying, well, we signed Kasper Schmeichel and Joe Hart at that age. Slightly different skill sets required when you get to that age. Keepers
lifespans as well.
Typically play quite much longer than the strikers do. But then you're like, well, he is just a wee poacher and he's finding space. And he did okay for Leicester last year. He scored 9 goals in a really crap Leicester team last season, which isn't to be sniffed at.
It's better than Edward has ever done down there. I know they're completely different ages, but I think
so.
He would
just
score
let
goals.
Me put. Sorry, but I would just about. He would be a good option, but would I be happy with our striking 3 being Johnny Kenny, Adamida, and Jamie Vardy? No.
The default.
We need another one in there. We would need another one in there for me.
You forgot Yamada.
Oh, sorry. Well, okay, but he's definitely not the other one. And I think I don't know how much football Johnny Kenny's going to play. For truly honest, even if Jamie Vardy does come in, he's a freebie. He's a gimme. It's Adamida and Jamie Vardy. We would probably still need another striker.
So your solution to us signing Jamie Vardy as a striker is needing another striker. So that's another player you had to know.
Because it's
I'm not disagreeing with it.
But let me know why. I'll tell you why I say that. Because he might be saying, like, I'm fit, I'm firing, I'm ready to go. I'm hot as a kettle right now and I can play. But come January, what if it doesn't work out? What if he's not as fit as you think? What if he's
not playing a minute of pre-season because he's not got a club? So we're getting him towards the end of August, having to get him up to speed, and then we've went through a full season of saying Adamida and Arne Engels need a pre-season, and we are bringing in a 38-year-old without having a pre-season. It seems.
So you're not for it?
I didn't say that. At my level of this grief scale, I'm not at acceptance yet, but I'm at the point where I'm going, I'm not against this because it is a player with a reputation and I could probably see him scoring goals. But at 38 years old, again, it seems like Celtic are just kicking the can down the road. We need a centre-half, so we bring in JSP. Think he'll be a good player, but we're going to need to address that again next summer. We're bringing in...
I just want to ask you a question here, because you're doing an awful lot of moaning, right?
Who's JSP?
Right. Well, we know that's Simpson Pusey, right? And Melly's... That's fine. So we've signed a Man City player on loan.
Yeah.
You're not happy with that?
No,
right?
I didn't say I wasn't happy with that.
You seemed not happy with it. Are you happy with it?
I'm happy with it, but just this time next summer we'll be doing the same thing because we'll need a centre-half.
What sort of signing would arrive at Celtic? You go, good bit of business, congratulations for the board.
Somebody that is going to come in and you go, right, they must be the right winger. They must be the striker. As you've just said, we're bringing in a striker, and you've already said we'll probably need another one.
Yeah.
So that's not
Imagine
addressing
that phone call, Brendan Rodgers to Michael Nicholson or whoever he deals with, probably directly to Dermot these days. All right, I need 4 players urgently, and then I need another 4 players to cover those because they're total accidents that we've signed at the last minute and none of them are fit.
So what we're looking at for this summer is we've signed Inamura, but we need another left back because he's not going to be the left back. We've signed Vardy, and we've signed Osmond, and we've signed Yamada, but we'd need another striker because they're not going to cover it. We've not signed any wingers, so we now need 2 wingers as well. We're not signing players that are doing what we need them to do. We're just bringing in players that are making us need other players. While Vardy might work out, there's a fair chance it won't work out, and that's along with us needing 2 wingers and probably and definitely a left back as well.
Jamie Vardy is his reputation goes before him, right? There's all the Red Bull stuff and how he drinks port before games and all. He's looked after himself very well. I think he carries a certain reputation with him because he's a bit of he's one of these kind of quite typical English lads, right? Who happens to be brilliant at football. But there's loads of articles about Jamie Vardy out there about how seriously he takes his fitness and his recovery and all that. There's loads of stuff like cryo chambers in his house and all that. There's loads of stuff that he takes it very seriously despite his kind of bam up demeanour, right? So he would still be in good condition, I'm sure of it. But Melly's right, he's not been he's
So
not
you're worried you might get your fingers burnt while signing like that?
Yes, yeah, that's always the worry, and you shouldn't do that.
Aye.
You should avoid that at all costs, really. But Jamie Vardy, I'm torn with it as well because I think he would be good. I think he would score goals. I think he's got even at 38, he's probably got exactly the right skill set for Scotland. Fast and just a general nuisance. Good finisher as well, like famously a really good finisher. But we are getting, or I wouldn't say we are getting because it's just speculation at the moment, but he is 38 years old. He couldn't be the first choice.
Which was really Defoe when he came to Rangers? I was trying to rack my brain there.
Maybe he would have been short of that. Maybe 34 or 35 when he arrived, and he did 2 seasons, I think, with Rangers.
Yeah, and look, Vardy, he is fit.
Yeah.
We know that. He's got a good pedigree. He's a good goal scorer, and you've said it over the years, Jamie, that if you're going to come to Celtic as a striker, if you don't have a good goal scoring record before that, it's very unlikely you'll just all of a sudden become a good player. Jamie Vardy at Leicester last season was decent, yes, but he's playing 1 game a week. We are going to be playing up to 50, 60 games, and if he's the striker, he's probably going to be the number 1 striker, so you're having to juggle Champions League, playing at the weekend, and then your backup strikers are misfiring, so you're going to want to play him more often than not.
That's the real issue, isn't it? The real issue kind of lies with how the rest of the team are performing, because if we had Kyogo, for talking sake, or a striker Kyogo's level, and we were talking about bringing in Jamie Vardy, we'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
But when right now, you're looking at going Jamie Vardy, right? Well, he needs to start. He needs to be the wild card, or he needs to come in and he's going to be number 1 striker and he needs to score, because we absolutely cannot risk him not scoring. We can't risk Adamida still having poor form, and Johnny Kenny kind of looks like a player we can't rely on. And weirdly, there's still rumours that we're trying to move him on or sell him. A very peculiar situation with Johnny Kenny. But so again, it's not risk averse; it's high risk.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And again, if we were sitting here and say Jota hadn't got injured and Celtic were out and they bought a winger instead of Kuhn, and we were sitting here like, we just need a striker, and Jamie Vardy was like, do you know what? That might not be the worst idea, but it's not just Jamie Vardy, it's everywhere else that needs sorted.
Aye.
So Jamie Vardy comes in and he has to be good. He has to be good. There's no other way around it, because the other guys you haven't brought in, and then the winger you come in, at least one of them has to be the main man, and then you need a left back. It's all too many ifs and buts here. As a singular signing, I would probably like it, but with everything else around it,
Yeah, less than
How
ideal
have we come to
circumstances. Yeah. I totally agree with that. It would be potentially right man, entirely the wrong time for Jamie Vardy. So I'd be very disappointed if that was it. This is what we've been gearing towards. This is what we've been waiting for. The best business comes at the end of the window, and it's 38-year-old Jamie Vardy. That's nonsense.
I think equally for this one, for your acceptance scale, I'd be equally disappointed and excited about the signing in the middle, because I think this could be class.
It's
But
a Neil Lennon signing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to drop a really hot take, a ferocious hot
wow.
take. Watch your fingers; they might get burnt.
Yep.
Kieran Tierney and Alistair Johnson are the best fullback pairing I've ever seen at Celtic.
Right, so so let's set the parameters. Our lifetimes then.
Yeah.
You're talking. No
Telford
matter
and
that.
Mo Kamara.
No,
Can't tempt you.
can't take me with that one.
John Joe Kenny and Diego Laxalt.
Oh,
we deal with
No,
that maybe.
Jesus, wow. No, I just think that Kieran Tierney's been brilliant, and I'm really looking forward to him getting up to speed. But I thought he was great again against Falkirk. Some of his he's just added a completely different dimension to the Celtic team, and then Dyson's coming inside. They're still trying. You can tell they're still trying to figure out the way they're playing. But Kieran Tierney's driving the standards. You saw it on the game; he was fucking bollocking Trusty for making mistakes and all that sort of stuff. So Kieran Tierney, this is a bizarre thing. See, when I watch him, it's almost like he didn't go away.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
came in
yeah.
as exactly the Kieran Tierney that left, and that's the best you can ask for. On the other side of the pitch, we've got a player who I compared to Kieran Tierney last season in Alistair Johnston, scored an absolute peach of goal against Falkirk. He just never say die, fully committed, really good pro. He's got everything you want in a Celtic fullback, and I think the pair of them existing at the same time, we've never had it better. And I don't want to dilute the conversation too much because that was a good start. But even when you add in Carter Vickers to the mix and Kasper Schmeichel, that is an unbelievably strong back five.
Strongly disagree.
Okay.
With one element of that, I don't think Kieran Tierney has come back the same player. I think he's come back significantly better.
Oh.
Now, he might never be physically the same than when he was 18, 19, 20. That's probably unlikely just because of his injury history. But I think he displays the intelligence and ability of a Premier League footballer now. I mean, that's
He looks a
natural.
cut above, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's perfectly natural. He always did stand out here. He always looked like he was potentially going to outgrow the league by the time he left his teens. That was always pretty obvious. But he has brought back the six odd years of experience of playing the Premier League. Granted, he wasn't always first pick, but even just the likes of the training and the coaching he would have been involved in for many, many years. I think that's pretty obvious in how he plays now. He's very assured. And you mentioned them bollocking Trusty. That I thought that was pretty telling, because I think Trusty get dragged way out wide and a pass went through his legs. He was just generally weak. And as soon as I think Sinisalo pulled off a really good save from Calvin Miller, I think it was, as soon as the ball was safe and out of play, Tierney just turned around and started absolutely gain him absolute pelters. So I think what I said, see, when he came back and made his home league debut, I said to Melly outside the ground when we were doing it at the match, it's not all that obvious. It's maybe only something you can see when he's right in front of you. So he was playing on our side. We sit on the halfway line, and he was fizzing balls into players, like pinging it right to their feet. And it's just like, it's that level he's been playing at. Well, you deal with that. This is your responsibility to control it. So it brings that level of confidence and technical ability that he's probably picked up over many, many years of playing at the absolute top level.
Yeah, and it's him and Johnston are sort of, well, I don't know if it still exists anymore, but in their peak footballing years, aren't they? They're not young guys anymore. They're in footballing terms, and the two of them give Celtic a different angle, don't they? We've seen last year Johnston can do what he does, but Kieran Tierney coming in and being that upgrade, and I suppose that's what you're always trying to achieve. It's not possible all the time to go out and buy a player who's an upgrade in the one that leaves, but we've done it so clearly with Kieran Tierney, and it's such a weapon for Celtic now that down both sides that they've got these two guys. If we could just get somebody ahead of them on one side to give them a hand, Johnston, Tierney, Maeda, and your new winger, that's great. See if we had a striker in there that could bang the goals. And again, Celtic are just a couple of players away from having a really good team, and with these two in the team, Johnston and Tierney, it could be one of those sort of partnerships that you go, do you know what, whenever I'm picking a Celtic, in fact, when you're picking a Celtic team, like your favourite team or the best Celtic team you've seen in your lifetime, there's a fair chance that Carter Vickers will be the centre half, Johnston could possibly be a right back, and Tierney could be a left back, and to see them all at the one time could be very special for Celtic. We just need a couple of players around it.
I think Brendan's the problem with all this transfer stuff is, Stephen, and we kind of mentioned it before, but it's worth going to be a bit more in depth in it, is because of all the transfer stuff, because everybody's all het up with it, and I suppose partly by choice as well, you end up focusing on the transfer stuff. And the fact that Brendan Rodgers started the season quite well with the players he's got, he's navigated the games really well.
3 out of 3, but all fairly comfortable. I mean, I know there was the late winner against St Mirren, but it never really looked like they were in danger in that game.
And the team don't look bad. You would expect a manager that sort of contracts in limbo, no getting the players he wanted. You'd expect some sort of it's starting to show in the team and moaning about it, but he's just getting on with it, and the team are looking pretty sharp. And I think, I mean, these Rangers games, they're always on the horizon. As soon as the season kicks off, that's the first fixture you're looking for. There's no doubt that the Rangers game is going to be a massive game for us. Their season's panning out slightly differently, but there's just there's a quiet confidence about Celtic, and I think Brendan's doing a pretty good job fielding these questions about the transfers And I think we're doing a bit of a disservice not focusing on the football.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think it's important at this point to say that it does look like a good team, but a good team that's missing some elements. I think that's the problem here. It's not that it's terrible. It's not that it's a bad team. It's not that we've suddenly completely fell apart or are likely to in the coming weeks. It's just we can see as fans that we're almost there.
Yeah.
Going to just do it. Going to just push for once. Just push us forward a little bit because, as I said last week, we're getting to that bargaining stage at the end of the window where we will almost subconsciously we're kind of ground down into accepting
a 38-year-old striker.
Yeah, we've filled the squad spaces. We haven't improved a single bit apart from KIERAN Tierney. Negrin might go on to prove himself better than Engels or can replace Kuhn or whatever. Right? But
he's certainly better than Bernardo.
Yeah, I would say that for now. But in terms of the team, we're only better in one position. And that's why I'm so adamant. Just sorry to derail us just a wee bit. It's like that's why I'm so adamant that we need something in there. We can't just go from Tierney to Scales all the time. You can't have the best player in the team with this like gigantic drop off to a guy who's just in there. We need decent enough backup in these positions. But you're right to say that this is a good team that could be with just a little bit of a wee bit of a push, and it's just transfers. A team that could be so much better than it currently is, but it's good at the moment. And I think it's worthwhile saying that. I don't ever want to come across like we're saying, everything's terrible, everything's just pure negative. It's not. That's not the case.
Brendan doing on you is the review you've put him under, the new contract review. So we're sort of a month or so into the season. How it's not
out of 3.
Yeah,
is he tempting you?
No. I'm not interested in a new contract just yet. I think like this is something that's probably going to come up all the time because, I mean, it's going to come up for Brendan Rodgers all the time. Although I think he was quite smart a couple of weeks ago when he said, look, there's nothing happening and just sort of shut it down there.
They should do that about transfers as well.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing happening. Don't ask me about it. No, I'm not bothered about the contract just yet. I want to see how the season plays out because even if this season is a successful one, this is me personally. This is just my preference. This is not me being some sort of football sage or pundit or anything like that. This is just my preference. 3 years is a long time, and it will be almost 6 years in the last decade of Brendan Rodgers. I like the idea of freshening things up every so often. That's just my preference. That's how I enjoy football. And it's not that I would never want to even imply that I think Brendan Rodgers is a bad manager and he should be hounded from the club because this is no good enough. I just think that you very rarely do you get opportunities to change things up when things are going well. And this might be one of them. So you don't have to keep a manager until you have to sack him. That's just my position on it as it stands. However, if we're absolutely brilliant this season and it's almost impossible not to extend his contract, I'll happily have that conversation. But at the moment, I'm not in any rush now.
Melly, what's the feeling of Brendan Rodgers just now? The way the team's playing. What have you enjoyed?
I'm happy with the way the team's playing. That was a good game to watch on Friday night. The players that I didn't expect so many changes, to be honest, because I thought Celtic would be looking for a bit of continuity, but thinking about it now, I enjoyed seeing different players. It was good to see Dane Murray come in and you go, do you know what? If he's going to be the backup to CCV, I'm happy with that. If GSP comes in, that could be an improvement there. I do still worry about Celtic making a lot of changes on Friday night and guys like Yamada, Bernardo, Osmond not even being able to start. So I do wonder what Inamura as well, still not making the bench. I do wonder what will happen there with those guys.
Because you wrote him off, he crushed his confidence.
yes.
He saw that podcast and he's never recovered.
See, just a quick note on that before we move away from Inamura. So Inamura, look, he's sparked a lot of debate already in his very, very brief. Yeah, in his very, very brief Celtic career. He hasn't even kicked a competitive ball yet, and he's the source of so much debate. But he's been left out of the Champions League squad, which doesn't say an awful lot, but this is a brand new signing, and all the talk turns to he's got to go out on loan. And I'm just like, honestly, just stop this. Stop signing these guys who need to go out on loan.
He's another con for me. That level of footballer I think we've got in our hands.
People will scoff at that, right? But just the record is there for that to be pretty reliably the case. But see these players who come in and all the narrative about them is that they're not ready yet, they need a loan, they're already in their early 20s, that they've not got much experience, so they need to develop it. Stop it, because it just doesn't work. Just for my own amusement, earlier today I looked into this type of thing, this projects or whatever you want to call it, right? Do you know how many, since if we take Callum McGregor as the gold standard of a guy who went out on loan and when his Celtic career kicked off, that was 11 years ago, right? Do you know how many players over the age of 20, or how many times Celtic have put out on loan a player over the age of 20 in the following 11 years?
So let me just clarify the proposition here. You're saying, Mr. X, you say that you get a player, he's not very good, send him out on loan, he comes back and he's excellent.
Yeah.
That's all he needs, a loan, and then he comes and improves, becomes a Celtic player.
Even players who have been knocking about for ages, I'm talking over the age of 20, but I wouldn't include anything under 20, because I think putting teenagers out on loan is exactly the right thing to do. And Ayer was a good example of that. Got it exactly right. That was a guy who was maybe not quite ready for first team football, put him out on loan to kind of polish a few things out, already a good player, and then he proved himself. I'm talking about the guys who need work. He's miles away, but he needs a loan. Do you know how many times Celtic have put players like that out on loan in the last 11 years?
80.
Oh,
close.
I was going to say about 75.
103.
What?
Right.
Right.
And it might even be more than that. This is just me counting off transfer mark, just going looking at the loan transfers.
That's about 6 or 7 a season.
Pretty much, yeah. So over 100 anyway, over 100 times, because some players are, it's not 100 players, some players go out on multiple loans. I think Adam Montgomery's had like 6 now. So they've done this over 100 times in 10 years. Do you know how many of those players have made any kind of impact on the first team since then? I've already discounted Ayer because, as I said, I think that's Celtic getting it exactly right. So players over the age of 20 who have come back and made a significant impact on the first team.
I'm going to guess...
You can have Callum McGregor as well, who I've already mentioned.
McGregor, Christie, and another one I've forgotten. I'm going to guess 3.
Tony boy.
Tony Ralston, most certainly,
7.
Well, you've got McGregor, Christie, Ralston, Tom Rogic, and the other one is Liam Scales. Right. So 5 times has anyone gone out on loan over the age of 20 and come back and made any kind of significant impact on the first team. So in all the talk of us laughing about how you wrote Inamura off a couple of weeks ago, all the talk about how you can't write players off, if you were to take every time Celtic send out a player over the age of 20 out on loan and write every single one of them off before you even know anything about them, you would be right 95% of the time.
That's high Vegas odds, is it? That's house odds.
That is not a risky strategy.
It is like just statistically very unlikely that these players are ever going to make it. I'm not saying that it's impossible, because on the occasion it does happen. I'm just so sick of these projects, whatever you want to call them, but the long-term, it just doesn't happen, right? The development players. So even that, writing players off before you've seen them, if you had take the transfer window we're always talking about, Brendan Rodgers' first transfer window, if you, on the day the window slammed shut, we all sat here and said every one of those players is a total dud before we'd even seen them kick a ball, you would have been right in every single instance. So in many ways, you're better taking the approach that they're all crap, because you'll be right 95% of the time.
I've said that before. Like people like say, "Oh, stop being negative" and all that. That if you wanted to be right most of the time, see, you could do what like Hugh Keevins does. Every time Celtic sign a player, you could be so negative, you could just go, "Oh, he's crap."
Aye.
You don't know the first thing about him. I know what the sort of players that Celtic are used to signing the last 10 years. They're going to be crap. Listen, though, look, we're happy with the job Brendan's doing.
Yeah.
We just need a little bit of season, a little bit of flavour, a little bit of spice sprinkled in that team just to get it motoring again. I did watch with envy a clip someone posted of a goal Celtic scored under Ange, and it was like when they all went to celebrate, there was like Jota was there, Kyogo was there, Bernardo was there, Maeda was all the stars were
O'Reilly
there.
probably.
O'Reilly was there, Yakimakis. I was like, oh my god, that used to be our team. Celtic play KAIRAT on Wednesday.
Yes.
We'll be there. We'll have a podcast post-match after it. On the match podcast will be out. We've got the phone in this week on Patreon, which is an opportunity for patrons or anyone that wants to join the Patreon to ask us questions. You can
Scouting's already out on the KAIRAT.
Scouting is out on FC KAIRAT. And on that, we'll just wave goodbye. Goodbye, everyone.